New Thought Media Network proudly presents Having Courageous Conversations, where real talk dives deep. Each week we go beyond surface talk. We open our hearts, speak our truths, and dive into the stories that shape us. No scripts, no filters, just powerful, unforgettable conversations about life, purpose, healing, and truth. Join the conversation, because your voice belongs here. Please like, share, and subscribe. Check out our YouTube channel at Having Courageous Conversations or email us at yourshowyourvoice@gmail.com. Now, let's have a courageous conversation.
The views and opinions of our guest and hosts do not necessarily reflect those of New Thought Media Network, or any organization we may be affiliated with. Here at New Thought Media Network, we welcome freedom of speech and courageous conversations. There are many topics that can be difficult to navigate. Challenging the status quo and engaging in lively debate is important to expanding our understanding of one another, and life in general. Creating a peaceful world doesn't happen because no one disagrees, it happens from a willingness to understanding one another. In our programming, we strive to expand consciousness and assist people in creating remarkable lives. Your comments are welcome at info@ntmedia.org.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Having Courageous Conversations. And today, Reverend Brenda Peters is joining as a co-host today as Cheryl is away. I thank you again for being with us.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Having Courageous Conversations is a heartfelt, spirit-led online series hosted by Unity Kitchener. Grounded in authenticity, compassion, and spiritual awareness, the series invites diverse voices to explore meaningful topics that are often avoided. Our dialogues focus on inner transformation and respectful communication. You can watch and listen to past and immediate episodes 3 o'clock on Thursdays, Eastern Standard Time. So now we welcome Trevor. And Trevor is going to talk to us about his journey through addiction and recovery. When Trevor first shared his story on Having Courageous Conversations in the past, he spoke openly about the difficult path that led him through addiction, devastating health consequences, and the moment that became his turning point towards recovery. Today, Trevor returns to Having Courageous Conversations to share where he's at now and what he's up to. Before we start, Trevor, would you like to recap from when you spoke to us the last time to now? And
Hi, so my name is Trevor Matkovich. I'm a recovering alcoholic and addict. Just as Mark said, I am very happy to be back on the show here. Thank you for having me. During our last conversation, I spoke about my journey through addiction and some of the consequences that came along with it. I lived a fairly normal life. As a child, I did well in school. I played lots of sports. I had lots of friends. And in my later teens, I turned into this kind of feeling that I didn't belong. And that pressured me into developing new friendships with older people and kind of driving me in a direction that didn't see coming, to be honest with you. It started out just as a party thing, and it continued on like that for a few years. And there was no real consequence to it. We would go out, we would have fun, we'd go to Toronto, it would be a great time, and back to work on Monday or back to school, whatever the situation may be. And that was fun times. We had a really good time. But during that time, I did get exposed to drugs and alcohol. We were using what would be considered back then as party drugs, and without naming things on the show here, I experienced a few different types. But the alcohol really had a grip on me. And I noticed that when the partying stopped and my older friends began carrying on with their lives, I felt kind of lost and alone. And I didn't quite know what to do. During that time, I thought I needed a change. I had graduated college and I was working at a car dealership. And I thought I needed a change, maybe careers. I was in a relationship at the time. I was living in my house that I grew up in at the time, but my sisters were both gone to university. And that was just a difficult time in my life. And I turned to the drinking, and it became excessive. What ended up happening was that I started to find friends that wanted to do what I was doing. And that's what kind of brought me into the situation. Now, I can't go along and tell you that it's other people I'm blaming for my addiction, because that wouldn't be the truth at all. It brought me comfort. It was a coping mechanism for me. My problem was that I didn't know how to cope with life on life's terms, and that was my answer to it. As that kind of continued on, I did get into a predicament where I did get into a drug fairly heavily, and that brought me to my knees pretty quickly. And I was trying to do the math the other day, but I believe it was about 18 years ago. I did a residential treatment program in Toronto. And when I came out of that, I stayed sober for about a year, but then I thought I could still drink. And that very quickly went sideways. And unfortunately, as I've seen in the rooms of AA over the many years that I've been there now, I didn't step out, find that there was a problem, and jump right back in. It took me 8 long years of hard times, losing jobs, losing girlfriends, losing homes, things like that, to really beat me down to my knees. And it was when the last house had kicked me out that it was actually a barmate. I ended up on his couch, and a nurse came in for him and realized the condition I was in. And they brought in a counselor, an addictions counselor from Stonehenge. She came in one day and said, "You need to go to the hospital." Not realizing the condition I was in. I was malnourished. I was underweight. I was in horrible condition. My liver was failing, and I was completely yellow. And that was my go-to the hospital day. And had I not gone in that day, I don't think I would have made it any further. I spent a few days in hospital, and unfortunately, it was on my mother's birthday that she got the call that I was in there and was not going to make it. I spent a few days in ICU, maybe a bit longer than that. It's kind of blurry. And I signed myself out and went home, or went back to the couch I was at, because I just I didn't want to die in the hospital. I didn't want to go in there. And so after signing that, I went back, and fortunately, this is going to sound weird, but fortunately, I had a grand mal seizure that put me back in the hospital again. And when I was in the hospital the second time, a gastrologist came to me and said, "Are you ready to give this a shot?" Right. And I was kind of on bended knees at that point. I was in and out of coma and on and off life support, um, and I said, "Okay, let's see what we can do." And they began medicating me to see what they could do, just to give me maybe a week or maybe two more, keep me comfortable. And each night I prayed, and my mom was beside me, I believe, every day. Um, Also, my sisters as well. And when I came out of that, I spent some time in the hospital. And when I came out, I was actually in a condition where I was bedridden, but alive. And
Wow.
and yeah, they gave me just a month to live or whatever. But during that time, I survived, and luckily, I had a couple of people that took care of me quite well. And I decided to go to church, and it was an impossible feat at the time. It took me about an hour to walk up just a few steps of stairs, let alone down to the bus. And when I got to the church, there was about 20 steps to go up into the door, and an elderly couple helped me in. And I just wished and prayed for my life, at that point, and asked for forgiveness. And when I left, I had this thought in my head, and I knew exactly where the AA meeting was down the street. I got back on the bus. It was the same bus driver, and he helped me back on the bus and helped me back off. And I just remember that first meeting and going into that meeting. But I don't remember what happened or anything like that. But that was the beginning of a real 3-year journey of beginning my recovery. The main turning point was leaving that hospital for the second time and realizing that this may not be true, but in my mind it was, realizing that my mother would be the only one at my funeral because I've lost everyone and everything in my life. And that was what really crushed me, right? Leading forward from that, I spent 3 years in AA, sometimes 3 meetings a day, and that continued on. I still am a member of AA today. I had quite the psychotherapy, and the addictions counselor stuck with me. The time she spent was amazing. And then, moving forward from there, I suffered again about 4 years ago from a lung infection that I was back on. It's called an ECMO machine, and it basically bypasses your lungs. I was flown to a hospital in Hamilton, Ontario, and again, I was on death's doorstep once more. I had to come back from that again, and that was learning to walk and talk and all over again, which was a very difficult point in my recovery. But with my family around and my friends in AA, I was able to make it through that. A lot of them came to visit me in the hospital, and it's a miracle to see that connection really is the opposite of addiction, and that's what I've realized.
Wow.
When I stay connected, that's what really matters, right?
That's amazing, Trevor. Thank you for sharing so openly. You're putting yourself out there. You're being vulnerable, and you let us know that it wasn't like, okay, flip switch, and you were dedicated. You are dedicated, I believe, to your life and moving forward in your life, and you're doing the work. And now it sounds like you're being an advocate for others. Before you continue, Trevor, I just wondered if Brenda had a question for you. Don't mean to put you on the on spot here, but just in case you do, I thought I would just.
Well, I guess through all of your journey to sobriety and now even advocacy, what's the biggest inspiration or driver, or what keeps you going?
My family, to be honest. I want to say it's a personal thing to strive to move forward, to progress. I do suffer, obviously, from the traumatic experiences I went through in terms of my health, my overall health. I feel the best I've ever felt in a lot of years, between the drinking and the recovery and everything. This is probably the best year I've felt, and I'm still going through some other health issues, but the main thing is my family came back into my life, and I've had this experience over the past over the past 9 years now of seeing their point of view and understanding their point of view, and living up to trying to live up to, not disappointing that, right? I felt ashamed of myself for many years. I felt the guilt, that weighed down on me. I want to say it was, depression and this and that, but it was really just my head going in circles about how can I make this better? How can I change? What can I do? Like, how can I be a better person, a better, and that actually brought me to just before I ran into the lung infection. Well, I should say just before, about a year and a half before. I fought with disability, and like Ontario disability and long-term disability, to go back to school to become an addictions counselor. And the reason behind that is the lady that helped me, right? And I had a good friend that said, just keep pushing forward. It's going to work out. Just keep pushing forward. And he kept telling me that. And he was taking a course at the same college I got into. And he said to me, you know what? I might still work at the bike shop when I'm done this, right? And I said, then why are you doing it? And then why are you pressuring me to do it, right? And he said, because it gives you purpose. It gives you meaningful purpose. And I truly believe that. And the one thing I kept in my mind is that if I go through all this struggle of trying to get into school and trying to get funding to get into school and things like that, what is the outcome, right? Like, at this time, I'm still so sick that, like, can I even work a job? Can I even, do that kind of thing? And a friend at a campfire the one night, he's got a couple of years on me, and he said, you know what your purpose is? To help one person. Like, that one person was you at that time, right? So if you do all this work and all this effort and you just help one person, that matters. That's worth it all, right?
Yeah.
And between that and what the gentleman said to me that was going to the same college at the time, it made a whole lot of sense, right? My last semester is when I had the lung infection. I only had one class during that semester. So I missed 6 weeks of the semester. And the teachers told me to drop the class and take it in another semester when I got healthy. And I fought back and forth with the school and said, all I want is an opportunity to make up to 6 weeks, and I'll finish the course. I did. and I finished that course and I graduated. I graduated with the President's Award at Conestoga College for addictions and mental health counseling. Yeah. From there, I had a friend in AA that knew the obstacles I had faced and things I've went through, and he worked at Ray of Hope in Kitchener, and he was able to take my resume in after I graduated, and I began working part-time at a youth residential facility. It gave me so much joy to bring my life experience and what I've been taught in school and put it all together and really make it work for others, right? You know, I worked jobs that I always thought benefited me in the past, or I was striving towards a goal that was kind of a social goal. This felt totally different. This felt like, you know, I was really making a change and making a difference, and it really helped me in my recovery to stay strong and move forward. And it's unbelievable how much you get back from helping others. That feeling just doesn't go away. It's truly special, right?
Being of service.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Today, you know, I kept in contact with the people at Stonehenge over the years, and I'm sure Kristen wouldn't mind me using her name. She's the CEO of Stonehenge now. She was actually my counselor's manager at the time. And over the years, I've had the opportunity to speak for Stonehenge, with Stonehenge, to the residents, to the community, which has been a great, you know, forward step in my life. You know, having the opportunity to be here today is another perfect example of how we can shed some light on how the world can change, you know, for just one person that, you know, many people gave up hope on, right? And I don't blame them, with not one bit. But that it becomes an asset, you know, if you let it. You know, all those trials, all those tribulations, all those stumbles, and all those things along the way only makes you stronger. Only, you know, things are put in your path, you know. Someone will say, if you pray for patience, you know, you're not going to get a day off. You're going to get something that makes you have to be patient, right?
Hey, I don't like that. No.
But it's the truth, and I found that along the way, right? The harder I fought against these obstacles that stood in my way, the stronger I became. Today, I'm married to a wonderful woman. I couldn't be happier, and my life changed dramatically. I moved from St. Mary's from Kitchener to St. Mary's. We have a lovely little home here. 2 dogs now, a great big one and a little one. They're wonderful, keep me company. I have a great connection with my family and my friends. I was just speaking to you before the show and said, you know, I got together with, you know, 40 other members of AA in a golf tournament last weekend. And it's just wonderful to hear from everyone and have some laughs and have some jokes and see how wonderful life can be, you know, and when you put the drugs down or the bottle down, you know, you don't need it. You honestly don't, right? I'm not saying it didn't take a lot of work, a lot of, you know, overthinking myself and sleepless nights and everything that comes along with it. But I look for those things that I'm grateful for in life today. A sunny day, a kiss from the dog, just certain things, when you're walking down the street. I live in a little town now. People say hi to each other. It's nice. It's a friendly place, right? And I was lucky enough a little while back that I spoke with the newspaper here, and it's kind of funny because nowadays you don't think of the newspaper as something that people even pick up anymore. But we get a newspaper every Thursday delivered to our house, and it's delivered to everyone at St. Mary's. And I was able to speak to one of the writers there, one of the journalists, and he said, you have a great story, so can we put it out there? And I said, absolutely. Not realizing it was going to be on the front page, but so yeah, it was the front 2 pages of the paper, and I got a little bit of feedback from people, whether to have shared that in a small town or whether to not have, and I said, you know what, it's time to be an open book. It's time to let people know it's okay to be open about it, and it's okay to be open about your suffering too, right? Not about just the good points and the recovery and the things that have happened. I know they're tremendous, and it's unimaginable, this life that I lead today, compared to where I was, 10 years ago. But it's true. It's come true for me, right? And it's a miracle, to be honest with you. But I couldn't have done it without the connections I have to the people that surround me today.
Wow.
And that's really become,
And you continue to make new connections, I believe, within AA, and through these conversations, I believe you're connecting with people, local and abroad, and you're taking addictions out of the closet and having a conversation about that. That's amazing. We're about to go to commercial, and I suspect that you're going to bring us to your advocacy now. So maybe a good time to pause for like 2 minutes, and we'll be right back. So don't go away.
Okay.
Having Courageous Conversations is proudly sponsored by you.
Please help us say thank Please help us say thank you to all of our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Center for Spiritual Living United Life, Sunshine Cathedral, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Universal Joy Center, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Home Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living, North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living, Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. On behalf of New Thought Media Network, thank you, and please like, share, and subscribe.
Having Courageous Conversations is proudly sponsored by Unity Kitchener. We are a welcoming spiritual community where open dialogue, personal growth, and authentic connection are encouraged. Join us Sundays at 10:30 a.m. Eastern for inspiration, reflection, and meaningful conversation. Learn more at unitykitchener.org. Unity Kitchener, a positive path for spiritual living.
Welcome back.
Nice. Okay. As we begin to talk about advocacy, I just want to just kind of point out that there's still quite a bit of stigma and discrimination against people who use drugs, are homeless. There's many reasons that people fall into addiction. And, you know, not every homeless person is an addict. People need to be individually looked at and taken care of in that sort of passion, in that sort of way. We all have a different journey and we all have a different recovery. And, you know, there's things that make us each special. And something can be said about the people that step forward and say, you know what, we're here to help, right? I now sit on the board of directors for Stonehenge, and it's been a wonderful experience for me. I've been on for actually a year now, and the change in residential care is just immensely changing the whole idea of how we treat addiction and how someone can come into one institution right from the point of withdrawal to residential care to a place to live afterwards to long-term housing till they're back on their feet and on their own. And that's what the social, like the whole system needs to begin looking at. I'm not saying that other options don't work for people. You know, I definitely said I was a member of AA and that was very important to me. Some people need specialized help. Some people have, you know, illnesses or, you know, they're afflicted by something, maybe past trauma and things like that, that need to be looked at. When I stand up and I speak in front of people, I want people to be aware that, you know, we say it's a choice to be an addict, and I just hate that. Sorry to be so blunt about that, but it's not a choice. It's the way we cope, and it's the fact that if I can't feel the pain and the suffering and the loneliness, or someone may be diagnosed with ADHD or something like that, it slows down their mind and they're not all over the place, but then become, you know, we build these patterns in our brain that you know, drinking more drugs is the answer. We self-medicate and we do these types of things to try to make other issues go away. And it's the issues that we need to be looking at that are causing this kind of thing. And dealing with youth, I can really see a difference or a change in the way we confront people that want help. There's this willingness that we're beginning to see from hospitals and nursing staff, things like that we didn't see in the past. It was more of a, get you sober, get you healthy, get you out of the hospital. It was. I was there many times, and it's unfortunate that way. Now we're seeing social workers step into these roles in hospitals, and I was lucky enough to volunteer at KW Hospital in the psychiatric ward, and realize that it is a lot of pain and suffering that these people are trying to cover up, and how do I word this correctly? I don't blame them for self-medicating, but it's not the answer, right? What if we follow? Well, sorry, go ahead.
Is this a global problem, Trevor?
Yes, it is. Yeah. We do see in certain areas of the world, and I've done a little bit of research on this, where the addiction rates are quite lower than in North America. And the reason behind it is a perfect example is Portugal. There's no criminal offense to any kind of drug or alcohol. So because it's a common, I guess, thing you can access, people grow up understanding, like having the knowledge from a young child that this is, for joy or partying or this or that. This is not for, hiding your pain and dulling your feelings and doing those kinds of things. And that's ingrained in them from a very, very young age. And I have a few friends, very close friends, that grew up in the islands in Portugal, and they said, like access to the stuff is no different than in North America. You still have to, find a dealer and that kind of thing. It's not on a store shelf. Maybe alcohol is, but but they understand the consequences before they ever do anything, right? And I don't know if that seed was implanted in our schooling system and things like that when I was younger. I remember the old "say no to drugs," right? Slogan. But we didn't really get taught about it, right?
Right.
And what could actually become of it. Kind of the stepping stones to the way we understand things today, the way neuroplasticity works in the brain and things like that, where you're actually creating a separate pathway in your brain to focus your coping strategy that way. So then it eventually is becoming a reaction instead of, or an impulse instead of something you're thinking about.
Right.
Yeah, that's for me. I've been sober for 18 years and I'm part of AA. And you're talking about coping and, basically learning how to deal with your feelings, especially in traumatic situations. And I agree with you. When we're young, not always are we taught, well, back then, I'm not really sure what they're doing today, but it seems like today's youth is more mental health aware, which really helps with that learning how to deal with your feelings, especially in traumatic situations. And I know for me, that was one of the reasons why I drank the most, was because I had big feelings and I had no idea how to handle any of those feelings, except for maybe anger. That's not the easiest one I could get. But I'm curious, with the youth that you work with, what's the youngest do you know, I guess, that you've worked with?
I had a 13-year-old drug dealer. again, we won't get into what the substance was, but it was something very destructive that we see on the streets everywhere now. That is killing off tens of thousands, if not more, of people a year. And at 13 years of age, I would have never thought about any of that. Like, I was like roller skating and playing hockey out in my driveway,
So is that how do you work with them then? Do you teach them how to handle feelings or how to switch their culture that maybe, because the drug culture and even the alcoholic culture is very different from everyday life culture?
Yes. And a major factor of that is who you're surrounding yourself with. I spoke a little bit about connection being, the opposite of addiction. And I stole that from John Harari, just so you know. It was in one of his TED Talks. And he, I went on to explain to this younger generation that it's okay to be mad. And it's okay to be sad, and it's okay to feel lonely. It's what are we doing with it? Are we holding it inside? Because that's not the answer. Are we talking to friends that listen, or are we just posting it on social media? Are we, real feedback from real people is the answer. And Brendan, I'm sure you can agree with me on this one. When you have a sponsor at AA, they're going to tell you the truth, and sometimes you're not going to like it. And I remember that, and being someone that's 13 years old and thinking you're invincible, and I had conversations about. I can't get too in depth, obviously, but we had conversations about, what if you get caught by the police? Oh, I'm a juvenile. What are they going to do? A few months? Whatever, what's the difference between that and being in here? That kind of attitude towards life, right?
Yeah.
So it's trying to change their experience in the time that you have with them to see that life outside of that drug life, that for me it was that bar life, right? Outside of that life, there's so much. It's so beautiful. Like, the world is just a place to be explored, and we live in one of the greatest countries in the world, both of us, right? And there's there's beautiful people to meet, beautiful people to see, and if you're feeling lonely, it's okay to talk about it. You shouldn't feel ashamed of feeling down or feeling depressed or feeling like you want to cry, or and all these things that we hold in to try to keep this image about ourselves because we want to look like everyone's picture on social media, right? Everyone's happy. Everyone's going on a new trip. Everyone's going here. Everyone's going. Who posts the bad stuff, right? Who posts
eating that great meal?
Yeah, right. I want to hear about your bad day at work, or your the ticket you got on the way home, or the no one ever reveals that kind of stuff. So when you're trying to live up to these unreal expectations of what you're seeing in society, it's just not reality, and getting them to understand that is quite difficult at a young age. But when they get it, it just is like a light goes on, right? And then they go, okay, now how do I change, right?
Well, and that's what I was going to ask you. Do you have the same type of program for kids that you do for adults, that you walk them through until they're sober X amount of times or something like that, X amount of years, through the whole journey, rather than just getting them sober and sending them on their way?
And that's the key, right? Ongoing intervention with anyone is the key. But some things, I'm an addictions counselor. That's what I am. I'm not a psychotherapist. I'm not a doctor. You know, and sometimes people need those things, right? Maybe they need a proper psychiatrist. Maybe there is an issue there that needs to be helped or dealt with, right? And those are very important facts. So when it becomes past my, so they're sober, they're getting their life together, they've now found a job or a group of friends or things that make them feel comfortable, or their families accepted them back home at a younger age, or even at an older age, a wife or a husband accepts them back. These are the types of things, where this is the part where I was talking about the importance of families and the importance of the support of the people who are supporting the person.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I feel I've found my practice falling into now. The idea of supporting the family so that they can give that ongoing support when they're done, when they feel like they're done with the counseling, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's nice to have someone there, and I love to get updates from people, to tell me how they're doing, whether it's good or bad. Just to tell me where they're at and things like that. And then you reach out to former clients and see how they're doing. It's a necessary stage. We use the same kind of process in terms of building boundaries, looking at what we've done and what we should atone for and things like that. Seeing our part in what we've done and being willing to change and supporting that willingness to change, right? Supporting someone that relapses, right? Being there for someone, like when they call you, at 2:00 in the morning when your phone rings, and being the one that picks it up, right? On a professional side of things, I stick to a schedule. But on a personal side of things, if it's these good friends from AA and that phone rings at 2 a.m, I'm picking it up. I'm answering that phone call. Why? Because people did it for me, right? And if you can get these people involved, some people, church is the way they go. Some people, sports. Some people, go back into work, and that's really comforting for them. So what it doesn't matter the avenue. It's that purpose and progress of going forward. And I always try to reiterate the fact that you're not coming from nothing. Okay. You just had a stint in your life that, was hard, right? You're going to make it through. And now you made it through, and now you're going to make it forward, and life's going to be even better than you could have ever imagined. And no one believes you when you say it.
Yeah.
I remember when I walked into the rooms of AA, they have the promises in AA. And I remember that, I don't know, during my first year hearing the promises and going, no, that'll never be.
Yeah.
I don't know. And now I sit here 9 years later going, like, I can't believe what's happened to me. Like, I can't believe, I was speaking for the city council and stuff like that for at a Stonehenge event and supporters of Stonehenge. And I was able to just a quick 15-minute little blurb, and it was the understanding that these people that support these organizations and these communities don't understand what they're providing on a frontline basis. I look at it, and I was able to speak to a few of these people, and they're just amazing people to, dedicate, whether it's their time or funding or whatever it may be, to an organization like this. And when I stood up there and I just said, like, I can't believe I'm here today. And then Kristen was standing beside me, who's the CEO, and she goes, yeah, and now he's my boss, right? From being on the board. It was pretty good for a laugh, how life comes full circle, and just a little joke like that, the way it makes you feel, right? Like,
so as a counselor, addiction counselor, do you encourage, like, if the families are there and want to be a part of the recovery, do you encourage them to go to Al-Anon then?
Absolutely. Yeah. I spoke with, actually, she reached out to me, one of the ladies in town. And I stopped by her house one day and got a whole package on Al-Anon. And she was nice enough to get all that together for me. And yes, I absolutely, I think it's a brilliant program. For people. I also believe that not every person fits that mold. I don't know how to say that properly, but not everyone fits into AA either, right? Like, so I don't mind counseling like family members and things like that, but more on a role play basis, as opposed to I'm an expert. Like, I'm not the expert, I was the addict, right? But I can share what your son or husband or nephew or whatever is thinking. Right. I can have that brutal conversation before you have them.
Yeah.
It's those types of things, and how setting up boundaries and not enabling and things like that you learn in Al-Anon, right? Are so important to change, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I that's actually how I came into AA, because I was in Al-Anon for 10 years and then figured out, oh, hey, I've got this disease. And so, but it is, so there are a lot of, even it's getting more and more, to the place where there are more people who are alcoholics who are now in Al-Anon too, because the only requirement for Al-Anon is friends and family members of alcoholics. And as an alcoholic, I have lots of friends that are alcoholics.
Yeah, exactly.
So I can join. But like I said, I was even before that. But it's very, I think, and that is also its own stigmatism, that if you're in AA you can't be in Al-Anon, or if you're in Al-Anon you can't be in AA. And it's just not true. Because when you get down to it, like, Al-Anon is emotional sobriety. And that really, as an alcoholic, helps me with my feelings and learning how on a daily basis to manage them and become emotionally mature, and to keep that maturity when I can.
So, absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more.
So I know that from what I've heard, Al-Anon and Alcoholics Anonymous is there's a spiritual factor, referring to God. And what if somebody's an atheist?
Would you like to touch on that, or I would?
You can go ahead. You're the guest.
All right.
Oh, come on, Brenda.
It doesn't matter if you're an atheist or there's a fit for you, and all you're looking for is a higher power, something bigger than yourself. Some people walk in through the doors of AA and hear the word God, and frightens them, and it shouldn't. What we're looking for is a spiritual experience. We're looking for something other than ourselves to guide us, right? And it doesn't matter what religion that may be, or whether you believe in nature or astrology or basically anything that is greater than yourselves. And I've heard people say, you know, for the first 3 months, it was the tree outside the window of the church basement I was in, right? Because like, I don't know how that tree got there. I don't know how that, like, and you know what? That's all it needed to be at the time, right?
Yeah.
As you move forward and as you grow, you will find a connection with something deeper than yourself.
Yeah. And a lot of people say for God, they use good, orderly direction.
Mm-hmm.
So that's also, something that those who are not believing in God, it's, as the traditional God can, that works for them. But also, I think even atheists and agnostics have, they just don't know what they don't know. And I mean, honestly, that's pretty much all of us.
That's one thing I know 100% is that I don't.
Exactly. But, like Trevor said, a lot of them do believe in something bigger. Like, I don't know what it is. I have no idea. I can't label it, but I know that there's something. And it could even be science, for a lot of them, science is a driver. So,
Right.
but like Trevor said, the longer you stay in it, the more we call them God moments that you have that are just too hard to, coincidence, just to, explain
Finding
away.
a pin.
Yeah.
We've got 3 minutes. Trevor,
Okay.
what do you want to leave us with this time?
Okay. First of all, I want to say thank you very much for having me back on the show. It was wonderful to be here again with you. Wonderful to meet you, Brenda and Mark. Good to see you again. But really, what I want to leave the audience with is, to be willing and open to the people that are suffering out there today. I want you to know that you don't need to be afraid, and you don't need to come to the rescue either. They're facing their own journey, and it may be a difficult one, and it may be a scary one. But there is professionals, there's people to help, and we do our best, as we can, to help people along the way. And a kind word, a loving handshake, a smile goes light years when you're feeling lonely and down and out. Buy someone a coffee.
Thank you, Trevor.
Do something so minor. It doesn't matter to your day, but it will mean the world to them. And that's what I can leave you with today. Thank you.
Thank you, Trevor.
Thank you, Trevor.
Brenda, final words.
I thank you again for having me as a co-host. This was great. I love it. I could talk recovery all day long.
Fast forward, maybe an episode that's what we do.
Yeah.
Have more dialogue. And I thank you both for sharing vulnerably and openly. And I'd like to leave by people knowing that there is support out there through AA, through Al-Anon, and speaking your truth, I think, is so important. I look forward to seeing you next week, Thursdays at 3:00 for Having Courageous Conversations. Thank you, Deja, in the background, for keeping us going. And I wish you all a great day.
On behalf of everyone at New Thought Media Network, thank you for being a member of our virtual family. Your financial contributions help share the New Thought message with people from around the world. Please visit and contribute at www.ntmedia.org/donate. New Thought Media Network. Come be you. And please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time.